Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now celebrating 17 years of broadcasting success, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again, both for our radio audience in the South and our online audience tuning in, thanks to our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcast. Glad to have you all with us as well. Well, when it comes to National Geographic, we know that they're able to give us some great photographs of some amazing places, but our next guest has also helped them to be able to document some of the world's best animals as well. We're excited to welcome back joel-sartore to our program. You know him as a photographer, an author, and conservationist. We're going to talk to him about the popularity of the photo-ark, what it's been like for him to share the world's animals with us, and what he hopes it does for all of you. Joel, thank you so much again for the time. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Great to be here, Cyrus.
So, Joel, you have been able to give us some extraordinary photos of animals literally around the world. What has it been like for you to not only to be able to share their stories, but also their importance?
Well, it's actually a big honor because a lot of these species, we're the only ones that pay any attention to them. They're small, brown. You know, it could be a little sparrow or a rodent. It could be a minnow that lives in a stream. Snails, mussels. We do all creatures, great or small, rare or common, to try to get the public to care about biodiversity, and the fate of ourselves is really tied to that. You know, we can't doom a big percentage of other animals to extinction and think that we'll be just fine. It won't work that way.
Yeah. So
it's a big honor to be able to look these animals in the eye, and sometimes I'm the only one that's ever really done that, paid attention to them and photographed them. You know, so we can really get a good look at them and certainly then give them an international audience or voice.
Yeah, and I think that is the beauty of what you and National Geographic have been able to do, whether we're talking about the masked lapwings or even, as I found out in the book, something as I was going through prepping for this segment, Joel, that I had not paid attention before, the albino North American porcupine. I mean, I think, too, to be able to get a little bit of their stories, too. Have you always known, Joel, that the world, you know, that we live in, that we are all connected?
Yeah, you know, my parents were really good about that. They got me outside a bit, quite a bit when I was growing up. You know, we lived in the suburbs of Omaha, Nebraska, but we always went hunting and fishing. And, you know, my mother was a big fan of her backyard birds and flowers. And so it was the changing of the seasons was a big deal. We'd run out. My folks would have us all run outside whenever there were snow geese flying overhead. We could hear them honking at night as they flew over our house. So it's always been a big deal to me, and I'm fortunate Geographic Grant funds us, and they allow me to go ahead and pursue this, to try to document literally every species in captivity around the world, and it's probably going to take 25 years total, and I'm about 15 years into it. So we just, you know, we're looking at everything from a deer that lives in the forests of Borneo to frogs that look like bird poop, literally, so they're disguised, they're camouflaged, that live in South America, to reindeer, to tigers. Just every type of animal you can think of, we've pretty much covered it. The only thing we haven't done yet is deep sea and the Earth's great whales. I don't know that we'll ever get the whales, but we're working at it, and we think another, 10, 15 years will get it done.
You mentioned an interesting point, and I want to bring up the St. Vincent parrot as we talk about this, Joel, because what I thought was so interesting is because what people will see if they have not gotten the photo-ark for themselves. Again, the book's available through our friends at Amazon.com or your favorite bookstore. You're able to get not only these beautiful animals that have been photographed by Joel, but also part of these little stories as well. And for the St. Vincent parrot, on page 346, what we find out is that it has been struggling against extinction, but conservation work and public education it mentions there, Joel, seem to have halted its decline. Talk to us about the importance of that, allowing us to see what we have done to a lot of these animals, but also the work that's being done to counteract that.
Yeah, that is a huge deal. I'm glad you touched on that. I mean, I do meet a lot of animals that are critically endangered or endangered, and some that have even gone extinct I've photographed. But the work that I see these conservation heroes doing, where they literally are taking something that's on the brink of extinction, like St. Vincent's parrot, and it's just listed as vulnerable now, but the captive breeding efforts and habitat restoration that are done by a lot of zoos in terms of helping rebuild the forest, or in public education campaigns that people should leave these birds alone, not take their young for the pet trade or cut down the forest they need to live. This is a big deal, and it inspires me. I don't ever get depressed about any of this. I just am reminded daily when I'm in the field working of the great work that can be done, and I've met people who have single-handedly saved everything from butterflies to birds to primates.
Yeah.
And there's no manual for this. These are just people that saw a need and they rushed in to fill it. And I think that's what humanity is very capable of, is to rush in and kind of save the day. But as I've gone along through my career, 30 years for the Geographic now, I've seen that there's more and more species at risk, and that there are a lot more fires that need put out, and that's very alarming. So we hope that the photo-ark inspires people, especially young people, to want to see what they can do. And in terms of that, I wanted to add this. You don't have to be a globetrotting National Geographic photographer to save the world. You can just start with your own backyard. I mean, plant a pollinator garden. Bring in butterflies and native bees. We did that both at our home and at our office this past year. It was a wonderful thing, amazing. We also planted a vegetable garden. You'd be amazed how much a little plot of your yard, if you devote it towards doing something other than just growing grass, you'd be amazed at the productivity of that. I mean, we hardly had to go to the grocery store for vegetables at all once we had our garden in. So it's just, there's a million things people can do. They can insulate their homes better, and that puts money in their wallet or their purses, because you're not letting that heat or cool that you paid for to run out of the top of your house. Quit pouring poisons on your lawn. That's hard on everybody. Eat less meat. It takes a lot of water and chemical use and energy to produce meat. Reduce what you buy, reuse what you buy, recycle what you buy. Drive a smaller car and drive it less. The list goes on and on. There's a lot of things you can do, but it mainly stems from consumer choices. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, and I wanted to go to something else you mentioned, Joel, about the partners, because one of the things that this book also, the Photo-Ark, does is highlight heroes. One of those heroes that I wanted to bring attention to is Brian Gretwick, and there, in talking about Brian and the work that Brian is doing, one of the things that he mentions, of course, are frogs. And he said this, a quote that's highlighted there: "Frogs are nature's soundtrack. Each species has its own unique story to share if we are prepared to take the time to observe and listen." Those three things are things that we humans are not known for: taking time, observing, and listening. Yeah. Do you hope that people do, though, Joel, do just that? They take the time to think about the impact that they are making and can make in making the world a better place for all of us?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope springs eternal, right? I sure hope so. I mean, I'm under no illusion that everybody will, but I would hope that people would realize, if for no other reason than it benefits humanity, that we really should be listening. I mean, the fact that we're losing amphibians at an alarming rate, the fact that the insects are in such steep, catastrophic decline is a big deal. Insects pollinate our fruits and vegetables. They allow us to eat. They keep nature cleaned up. They keep each other in check by eating each other so that we can pull off crops that we need to keep the world fed. These are all the things that I think about, and I just don't want it to get so bad that people tend to get in a blind panic and demand our politicians do something about it. I mean, I'm very heartened by the fact that the world finally views climate change as a real threat to life, and that's heartening. But they say true change is generational. It doesn't happen overnight. Mm-hmm. So let's just see if we can get smart enough, fast enough to want to save the other species on the planet. And the Photo-Ark, we hope, accelerates that realization in a big way.
So true. It's such a great volume, not only, of course, to look at, but also to think about as we're kind of sharing it with those in our family. Again, everyone, Joel-Sartore has been back with us. He's a photographer, author, conservationist. The Force Behind the Photo-Ark that's published by National Geographic. Make sure you guys pick it up, One Man's Quest to Document the World's Animals. And, Joel, how can our audience stay connected with you?
They can come to my website, joel-sartore.com, joel-sartore. We sell prints of everything that I shoot and signed archival prints and signed books as well. They can also go to National Geographic, which has a store that sells products, and at either place they can learn about the photo-ark and all the animals in them. Both places have endless scrolls where you can just scroll through the 11,000 species we photograph now. We crossed the 11,000 mark with a dart moth from Santa Fe, New Mexico. So yeah, they can go there to learn a lot more about what they can do. And if folks have any questions, they can always drop me a line at joel-sartore.com. I'm happy to answer them. But there's a ton that we can do right here in our own backyards and in our own neighborhoods and our towns to try to make the world better. And it's a great feeling. It's very satisfying.
Yeah, what a great thing. Joel, again, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it and all the great work you're doing, and looking forward to our next conversation together.
Thanks, Cyrus. Appreciate it.
Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying, as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Now let's go make today amazing. Take care.